We are the biggest selling female group ever, and we are broke as broke can be.
Hey rock stars, think you know everything about your favorite musicians? Think again. Join us as we expose 50 jaw-dropping secrets that even the biggest music buffs never saw coming. You won't want to miss this. 50. Diana Ross. I am sorry to say that Meredith Ross has been mistreated by the music industry over the course of her 6-decade career in pioneering efforts that have changed the landscape of music as we know it today. The artist behind huge hits like I'm Coming Out, Ain't No Mountain High Enough, and Endless Love has never received a Grammy Award. She also hasn't been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as a solo act. 49. Prince.
Because, not being under contract, there's no rush to do anything.
According to Melinda Newman for Billboard, Warner Brothers wouldn't allow Prince to publish his new music, saying he would oversaturate the market, limiting him to one record per year. Prince wanted to own his music, which was impossible under the typical deal he signed when he was only 19, preventing him from ever owning the rights to his masters. 48. Johnny Cash. Johnny Cash was dropped by Columbia Records in 1986 for not being successful and profitable enough anymore. He signed the contract with the label in 1960, positioning himself on the top of the charts with his first singles. Columbia Records made millions on Cash, but when country music went out of fashion in the 1980s, the company didn't think twice before dropping him for good. 47. John Fogerty. The legendary singer talked about his problems with his former label, Fantasy Records. The company sued Fogerty for plagiarism, claiming that his song Old Man Down the Road was simply his old Creedence Clearwater Revival song, Run Through the Jungle, with a new title. In 1988, I had to go through a plagiarism trial where I was sued for sounding like myself. And people tell me this was unprecedented, he told The Guardian in 2000. I spent more than 3 years trying to resolve these issues, but sadly, it didn't work. Fogerty won the case, but he had to endure more legal hoops to win back the $1.35 million in costs. 46. Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson felt that Sony had not done enough to promote his 2001 album, Invincible. In 2002, he accused his record label of racism, saying, "The recording companies really do conspire against the artists. They steal, they cheat, they do everything they can, especially against the black artists." 45. Martha Wash. How the music industry mistreated her. Martha Wash is an incredible singer with a distinct and uniquely powerful voice from the club dance music scene in the 90s. However, the music industry decided she wasn't pretty or marketable enough back then, i.e. not thin enough, so they used her vocals and had other people lip sync them in music videos. Because she didn't receive proper credit, she lost a ton of royalties that she rightly deserved. 44. Dr. Dre. Dr. Dre triumphed in his legal battle against Death Row Records in 2015 when a judge ruled that the label did not have the rights to sell his album The Chronic digitally. The judge ruled that Dre was owed far more money from online sales of the 1992 album and entitled him to receive 100% of proceeds of online sales. 43. Whitney Houston. The late Whitney Houston had one of the all-time greatest voices, but despite selling more than 170 million albums worldwide and winning 6 Grammy Awards, she was reportedly living a double life manufactured in part by her manager. An insider told the magazine that Houston had to do what he said, wear what he said to, sing what he wanted her to sing, and act like a goody two-shoes when she was really a down-and-dirty girl from Jersey. Whitney definitely resented that. The source continued, Clive made her into a mainstream pop star and allowed all of her wildest dreams to come true. But being this massive pop star came at a price. Houston allegedly turned to drugs to cope. She was in pain from all the pressure she was facing and the pain from living almost a double life, a source told People. 42. Courtney Love. Vivendi Universal Music Group and Courtney Love reached a settlement after their lawsuits against each other in 2002. Universal sued Love in 2000 over 5 allegedly undelivered albums, and Love countersued, saying the label treated artists unfairly, claiming that the company made $40 million from album sales from her rock band Hole, while she and band members only collected $2 million in royalties. As part of the settlement, Universal agreed to waive any rights to future recordings from Love and restore her ownership of unreleased Hole material. In exchange, Love and the other members of the Cobain estate granted Universal permission to release new Nirvana packages, including a compilation album with a never-before-released track, a box set, and a rarities album. 41. Kenny Rogers. Country crooner Kenny Rogers and his longtime manager Ken Cragen became bitter rivals in 2001 when the late singer-songwriter fired his business partner of 33 years. Rogers claimed Cragen stole talent from his Dreamcatcher management company, as reported by Billboard. He sought unspecified compensatory and punitive damages from Cragen on top of any and all profits Cragen received through his wrongful conduct. Cragen claimed it was Rogers who should pay him the big bucks, alleging the Islands in the Stream singer owed him a 50% cut of Dreamcatcher's profits from record sales, concert tours, personal appearances, and more. The dispute was settled behind closed doors in 2003, according to CMT. 40. Kendrick Lamar. Rapper Kendrick Lamar also had a legal dispute with his former label, Top Dog Entertainment, over unpaid royalties and other issues. He eventually filed a lawsuit against the label and was able to resolve the dispute and reclaim the rights to his music. 39. Tom Petty.
Actually do use them, you know. I've used most of them, so
right.
I'd rather see them go to some use than behind glass.
Than just
somewhere.
sit in a museum.
Tom Petty was the artist who invented the way out of a bad contract through bankruptcy in 1979. Despite releasing 2 successful albums in 1976 and 1978, he wasn't earning much due to the deal he made with Shelter Records years earlier. 38. Janet Jackson. The Grammys banned Janet Jackson from singing at the awards in 2004 because of her Super Bowl 38 performance with Justin Timberlake. Timberlake instead suffered 0 consequences and was able to perform at the awards that same year. 37. Darlene Love. How the music industry mistreated her. Darlene Love sang lead vocals on some of the biggest hits of the 60s like He's a Rebel and Christmas, Baby Please Come Home. But music producer Phil Spector never put her name on the records. Instead, he put the name of a girl group, the Crystals, on Love's songs. She didn't receive any royalties for her chart-topping work, but finally received recognition in the industry in the 2010s. 36. Backstreet Boys. In 2002, the Backstreet Boys sued the parent company of their record label Jive, Zomba Recording Corporation, asking for $75 million and a release from their 1994 recording contract. The boy band claimed that Zomba refused to support them artistically via producers through the recording process because the label was too focused on Nick Carter's solo career. They also alleged that Zomba used the Backstreet Boys website and mailing list to promote Carter. 35. Aaliyah. Aaliyah and other women came in contact with R. Kelly. She believed he could help with her career, and he had a system designed to enable both his success and his depravities. There must be dozens of music industry enablers who haven't been held accountable. for Kelly sexually abusing Aaliyah and illegally marrying her when she was only 15 years old. 34. Kesha. Kesha Rose Siebert has been trying to free herself from her contract with producer Lucas Sebastian Gottwald from Sony Records since 2014, claiming he has abused her financially, emotionally, and even sexually for over 10 years, causing her to almost lose her life due to an eating disorder and drug abuse. Sony states the company is not in a position to intervene due to legal requirements. Kesha lost the case and her career while Gottwald walked out unharmed. Kesha's contract is still valid today, preventing her from working with anyone else. 33. Alanis Morissette. Alanis Morissette was one of the 90s and early 2000s most influential singer-songwriters. While her chart-topping career appeared to be lucrative from the outside, Morissette's bank account was reportedly bleeding cash. In 2016, Morissette sued business manager Jonathan Schwartz and GSO Business Management for breach of fiduciary duty, conversion, fraud, and negligence. The You Oughta Know singer claimed Schwartz stole money from right under her nose, convincing her that she was in tremendous financial shape when in fact they were draining her assets and leading her on a road that could have led to financial ruin. A second business manager reportedly discovered that Schwartz made more than 100 transfers from her accounts to invest in illegal marijuana grow businesses. In 2017, Schwartz came clean, confessing to stealing more than $4.8 million from Morissette. 32. Linkin Park. It took a long time for Linkin Park band members to sign a deal with a record label, and they thought they'd struck gold when they signed a deal with Warner Brothers Music Group Corp. But it wasn't as dreamy as they'd imagined, with problems starting during the recording of their first album, Hybrid Theory. The band members were exceptionally focused on work, dedicating their time and efforts to the music, but their vision was restricted by the label continually trying to change their unique sound. The label even tried to separate Mike Shinoda, founding member and songwriter, from the rest of the band, creating conflict between the group and their label, reports Louder Sound. 31. Big Mama Thornton. Elvis Presley got famous off of Hound Dog in 1956, a song Big Mama Thornton originally released in 1953. He stole it and made it his own, and it became one of the biggest songs in rock and roll history. Thornton's version, however, never received worldwide praise and recognition like Presley's. She's yet to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which is strange because she's the one responsible for shaping rock and roll music. 30. LL Cool J. LL Cool J was one of Def Jam's original stars, but the rapper has been open about his problems with the record label. He believed Def Jam did not promote his 2006 LP Todd Smith properly and claimed that the label called radio stations telling them not to play his songs. Jay-Z, who was label president at the time, denied the allegations. 29. Yoko Ono. Yoko Ono co-wrote Imagine for John Lennon's 1971 album Imagine, but Lennon didn't give her songwriting credit. Ono finally received songwriting credit for Imagine at NMPA's Centennial Annual Meeting in 2017, once it was learned that Lennon pulled the majority of the lyrics from her 1964 poetry book, Grapefruit. 28. NSYNC. NSYNC was in the middle of a messy legal dispute against BMG and Lou Pearlman after they left the label to join Jive. BMG and Pearlman sued the boy band for $150 million for breach of contract, while NSYNC alleged that Pearlman and his business holdings committed fraud, breach of contract, and breach of fiduciary duty. The parties reached a settlement in 1999. 27. Summer Walker. Summer Walker is a fresh face in R&B waters, inspired by the 90s sound of Destiny's Child and Usher. Releasing her first single in 2019, she made immediate success with her first full album, second in first-week success only to Beyoncé herself. But her financial future is questionable. The singer's contract from 2017 with the record label didn't only include a low advance payment, $110,000, and a low royalty rate, 16%, but also demanded that she pay them a percentage of all her non-music related earnings. All the while, the label is not obligated to invest nearly as much in her. 26. Taylor Swift. When Scooter Braun bought out Taylor Swift's former label Big Machine Records in 2019, he acquired all of her masters. Swift didn't own any of her music, and after years of trying to win them back, Braun negotiated with a frivolous deal. Swift has since signed to label Republic Records and has been re-recording her albums that were initially released on Big Machine. 25. Metallica. It wasn't against a record label, but Metallica won big when it sued Napster in a 2000 case that changed the music industry. The band sued the music sharing service for copyright infringement and racketeering. The judge ruled in favor of Metallica and ordered Napster to be shut down. 24. Neil Innes. Neil Innes was a member of Beatles parody rock band The Roodles and the Bonzo Dog Doodah Band and collaborated with Monty Python. Pretty cool, right? However, he dealt with a lot of headaches and lawsuits throughout his career. He lost copyrights to songs he wrote for The Roodles when John Lennon and Paul McCartney sued him for plagiarism. The Bonzo Dog Doodah Band had their name stolen by a promoter who trademarked it, and he got into a legal battle with members of Monty Python to get royalties for songs in the Spamalot musical. Neil Innes passed away at the age of 75 on December 29, 2019. 23. A Day to Remember. Everyone remembers the Musicians vs. Label lawsuit of their generation, and for many younger pop punk and metalcore fans, Victory Records vs. Everyone encapsulates the 2010s. A Day to Remember is one notable band to battle head-to-head with them, the result being their 2013 Common Courtesy album, As We Now Know. But back in November 2016, ADTR bagged a $4.02 million win against Victory for a breach of contract after a 5-year battle, with 3 of the 4 issues they cited: fulfilling the band's contract, controlling the band's publishing, and digital royalty withheld from the band being won in the band's favor. 22. 50 Cent. 50 Cent signed a deal with record label Columbia Records. However, the label was later absorbed by Sony Music, and 50 Cent claimed that Sony failed to properly promote his music and refused to release his second album. He eventually sued the label and was released from his contract, allowing him to release his music independently and launch his own successful label, G Unit Records. 21. JoJo. JoJo's first 2 albums, JoJo and The High Road, weren't available to stream anywhere because her former labels, Blackground Records and Da Family, withheld her music. JoJo filed a lawsuit against them in 2009 because she was only 12 years old when she signed her record contract, which is against New York state law. 20. Dixie Chicks. The Dixie Chicks had an 11-month dispute with Sony that began in July 2001, during which they accused Sony of systematic thievery by underpaying $4 million in royalties owed the trio for their first 2 multi-platinum releases from Sony's Monument Records imprint. The trio reconciled with the record label with a new contract that gave them a $20 million bonus. 19. Lil Wayne. Rapper Lil Wayne also had a legal battle with his label, Cash Money Records. He claimed that the label failed to pay him the royalties he was owed for his music, and that they were also keeping him from releasing new music. He He eventually sued the label, and in 2020, he was released from his contract with Cash Money Records. He then started his own label, Young Money Records. 18. Little Richard. And before Elvis, of course, there was Little Richard. With his frenetic, up-tempo style, raucous live performances, and excited vocals, the pride of Macon, Georgia paved the roads of rock and roll, only to have a procession of white imitators drive dump trucks of cash over it. The architect of rock and roll never really got his due. He was screwed out of his music royalties and shut out of the Grammys. He hasn't received the Hollywood biopic treatment like a number of his contemporaries. 17. TLC.
We are the biggest selling female group ever. 10 million albums worldwide. We have worked very hard. We have been in this business for 5 years. And we are broke as broke can be.
How the music industry mistreated them. TLC had won 2 Grammys in 1996. They were the biggest selling female group by that point. 10 million albums sold worldwide. But they were actually bankrupt and barely received money for their major hits. 16. Trent Reznor. Nine Inch Nails frontman Trent Reznor slammed his record label Universal Music Group in a website post in 2007. He wrote that Universal was exploiting customers, citing the retail markup in Australia. As the climate grows more and more desperate for record labels, their answer to the mostly self-inflicted wounds seems to be to screw the consumer over even more, Reznor wrote from his Australian tour. The absurd retail pricing of Year Zero in Australia. Shame on you, Universal Music Group. Year Zero is selling for $34.99 Australian dollars, $29.10 American dollars. No wonder people steal music. 15. The Jackson 5. Joe Jackson felt that Motown was putting the Jackson 5 on the back burner and wanted to split from the record label. While signed to Motown, they were only getting 2.8% royalties. Think about it. Berry Gordy was making a bulk of the money even though he didn't perform it. By 1975, they were done with Motown and signed with Epic Records instead, which gave them a way better royalty rate of 20%. However, Motown's contract with them didn't end until 1976, and they sued the Jackson 5. In the end, they let them record for Epic, but they owned the name the Jackson 5, so they had to change their name to the Jacksons. Not the biggest loss, really. They got creative control over their sound and got some hits with Enjoy Yourself, Blame It on the Boogie, and Shake Your Body Down to the Ground. 14. Ronnie Spector. Producer Phil Spector destroyed the potential career of the Ronettes, a 60s group led by his then-wife Ronnie Spector, by withholding contractually obligated recordings. Spector refused to let Ronnie go on tour with the Beatles and forced her to stay in California while a previous member sang lead. 13. Mary J. Blige. Mary J. Blige and Kendu Isaacs were the picture-perfect R&B couple for 13 years. She sang and he produced and managed her career. That came to a screeching halt in July 2016 when she filed for divorce amid allegations of cheating. Blige asked a judge to deny her estranged husband spousal support. She detailed numerous examples in which he allegedly misused her funds. The court did not rule in Blige's favor. A judge ordered her to pay Isaacs $30,000 a month in spousal support in addition to retroactive support, reported TMZ in 2017. Although that sounds like a lot, it's far less than Isaac's original request, $129,319 per month. 12. LaToya Jackson. LaToya Jackson had shared troubling details about her marriage to her late ex-husband and manager, Jack Gordon, whom she was married to from 1989 to 1997. Jackson claimed that Gordon offered her up to have sex with another man for a price. Mike Tyson later told my mother and father and some other friends that Gordon had told him that if he wanted to sleep with me, he had to pay $100,000, she said, via the Daily Mail. Not only that, Jackson alleged Gordon forced her to join in group sex and made her pose for Playboy. I was in brothels and everything, she said. He put me in everything I was against. He made me do Playboy twice and had me sit on the stage and say, "Oh no, it was all my idea." She added, "And I had to do that because if I didn't, I knew that what he said he would do, he would do." 11. Lester Chambers. Lester Chambers is the lead singer of the Chambers Brothers, best known for the psychedelic soul hit, "Time Has Come Today." Like a lot of one-hit wonders, the money and stardom didn't last forever. He eventually ended up sleeping in a rehearsal room because he couldn't afford a place of his own. Turns out between the years 1967 and 1994, he didn't receive a penny in royalties, so he had to do odd jobs to get by. Thanks to donations from Yoko Ono, some friends, and the charity Sweet Relief, he got a proper place to live in and some money for medical expenses. 10. Bryson Tiller. At the time of this writing, R&B sensation Bryson Tiller is caught in a nasty battle between his current management and his former management. According to TMZ, former manager Stephen J. Dorn claims Tiller owes him money and filed a lawsuit to try to collect earnings from the Grammy-nominated Exchange star. Dorn claims he covered Tiller's living expenses, child support payments, car insurance, and secured recording facilities for him. And Tiller agreed to pay him back and then split his future income evenly with him, reported TMZ. Dorn says he was removed from his post by Tiller's new lawyer in 2015. 9. Rihanna. In 2009, Chris Brown had allegedly beaten Rihanna and threatened to kill her while leaving the Grammys. While Brown had struck a plea deal with the police resulting in no jail time, multiple images of a bruised and bloody Rihanna were leaked to the public. After making it out of that situation with nothing but a slap on the wrist, you would think that Brown's label and the general public would have blacklisted him from the industry, right? Well, think again. Currently, Brown has roughly 44 million monthly listeners on Spotify, as well as features on songs by artists such as Gunna and Pop Smoke. With known abusers like Brown still working in the music industry, how can women feel safe? 8. The Beatles. One of the most iconic bands in history encountered their share of unfair treatment within the music industry. Despite their unparalleled success, the band members faced financial exploitation that marred their legacy. The primary issue for the Beatles was their contract with music publisher Northern Songs. In an unfortunate turn of events, the publishing rights to the majority of the Beatles songs were sold without their knowledge, depriving them of the financial rewards their music continued to generate for decades. This lack of control over their intellectual property highlights the vulnerability of artists, even after achieving unparalleled success. 7. Amy Lee. In December 2005, Amy Lee of Evanescence came forward with a myriad of reasons why her former manager was allegedly awful. She filed a lawsuit against Dennis Ryder, claiming breach of fiduciary duty, sexual assault, battery, professional negligence, and more, reported MTV News. The week before Lee filed her suit, Ryder reportedly filed a $10 million breach of contract lawsuit against the band, according to the Los Angeles Times. His attorney released a statement denying the allegations. Miss Lee is very creative in writing lyrics to a song, but now she is creating a version of reality that simply has no basis in fact, and she knows that. The statement said Ryder's guidance made Lee a rock and roll celebrity worldwide and wealthy beyond her dreams. 6. Billy Joel. Billy Joel is one of the best-selling musicians of all time, but even he got scammed by his manager. In the 80s, he found that his manager and former brother-in-law, Frank Weber, stole $30 million of his earnings and took him to court, suing him for that plus $60 million in damages. Then, Weber filed for bankruptcy to get out of paying him all that, and they settled out of court. The lawsuits didn't end there. He sued his lawyer, Alan Grubman, for $90 million, claiming that he committed fraud and breach of contract. He defrauded him by making secret deals with Frank Weber, and if the law firm let him know what was going on, maybe he wouldn't have lost tens of millions of dollars. Once again, he settled out of court. 5. Destiny's Child. Latavia Roberson and LaToya Luckett claimed they didn't know they were dropped from Destiny's Child until they saw the music video for Say My Name with 2 new members, Farrah Franklin, who later left, and Michelle Williams lip-syncing their parts. Ouch! Luckett and Roberson sued Beyonce Knowles, Kelly Rowland, and their manager and Knowles' father, Matthew, and the group's label, Sony Music, for breach of contract, defamation, libel, and fraud. The parties reached a settlement in 2002. 4. Mariah Carey. Before Mariah Carey built her reputation for being a boss on and off the stage, she was just a backup singer who caught a music executive's eye. According to Billboard, Carey and Tommy Mottola got together when she was just 19 years old, married in 1993, and split in 1998. During that time, she claimed he was so controlling that he kept her locked in a mansion she dubbed Sing Sing. In her 2016 reality show, Mariah's World, Carey describes that difficult period in her life. I was with someone at the time that had a lot of control over my life. He was older than me by a lot and had a lot of power, and he wanted me to remain away from most people, like sequestered, she says via Stylist. I had to get permission to leave the house. 3. Alan Freed. By slipping DJs a few extra dollars, record companies could all but ensure that their artist's song would become a hit, something many DJs thought of as plain old business. Amidst the chaotic hearings, 2 of America's most popular DJs, Dick Clark and Alan Freed, came into question. Both Clark and Freed denied ever having accepted under-the-table payments in exchange for radio play. But everyone was more inclined to believe the dapper, all-American Clark, despite his having recently offloaded several incriminating assets, than the defiant and unabashedly blunt Freed, who popularized the term rock and roll and regularly advocated for black artists. While Clark walked away relatively unscathed, Freed was charged with commercial bribery, heavily fined, and fired from his job. He died virtually penniless of complications related to alcoholism just 3 years later. 2. Jimi Hendrix. The story of a young, naive musician taken advantage of by more business-savvy individuals has become something of a cliché. Sadly, though, it is a cliché steeped in a backlog of true events. Perhaps he didn't fully understand what he was doing when he signed his first recording contract with a man named Ed Chalpin. Hendrix signed away most of the rights to music he would be obliged to write, perform, and record for 3 years. In return, he received $1 and 1% of the profits from the sale of the recordings. 1. Billie Holiday. Jazz legend Billie Holiday had a roller coaster ride of a career prior to losing her battle with substance abuse in 1959 via biography. While serving as a groundbreaking African American performer during heightened racial tension and segregation in America, Holiday's drug addiction and stance against white supremacy made her a target for authorities. Thanks for tuning in to our journey through the scandals of rock and roll. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to check out our other content for more music industry secrets. Keep rocking, and see you next time.